Once again, thank you very much for joining us. We greatly appreciate you coming and having a chance to learn some information about what's going on in the drinking water world, and hopefully we can hear back from you guys about what's going on in the field. We have an agenda up on our website, and hopefully you all received it in order to register for today. Thank you very much for bearing with us and using the registration format. This is a new requirement for us as an agency, and we're hoping that we were able to get everybody in the door like we typically would. Based on the number of participants, I think we're doing okay. Feel free to share that registration link with anyone who you would normally see attending and you don't see attending today. Couple of housekeeping items before we go too far. This is a live Teams meeting. You can participate at any time. Your camera will work, your ability to come off mute. We do, however, ask that you keep your camera off and yourself muted whenever possible so that people can actually see any presentation that's going on. But obviously, if you're participating, if you're having a question, if you're having a back and forth during open discussion, please feel free to take yourself off of mute and use your camera if you have one. At any point in time, you can react or have a question in the top bar at the header portion of your Teams is where you'll have the ability to chat. There is a bubble that says show conversation. If you hover over it, that will allow you to ask any questions you have in a written format, and the presenters and myself who are facilitating will go ahead and be able to read that and potentially answer that question whenever they have a free moment. Also, you have next to that the ability to raise your hand. It's a little smiley face emoticon with a hand in front of it. And there's also some reactionary items that they've added. So if you want to laugh, clap, really love something, or give it a thumbs up, those are also available to you. If you want to see who's here, next to that, you can see two little faces next to each other. And that will allow you to see participants if you're wanting to know whether somebody that you know from the industry is present and available today. Other than that, we will be presenting probably the beginning portion from approximately 9 to 10 with our welcomes, introductions, and program updates. And then we will be moving on to some presentations thereafter. If you are joining us through Teams, we'll probably take a break at that time in order for you to get up, walk around, and rejuvenate yourself a little bit. So with that said, please feel free to participate like I mentioned, and know that if by any chance someone is missing this today, I do understand that we have an unfortunate scheduling conflict with the after action Yuri winter storm stakeholder groups or roundtables. This will be recorded, as I mentioned, and up on our YouTube channel. Usually takes me about a day to make that happen. If you have any questions after the fact today or during today and you're having trouble with the chat feature, etc., feel free to email DWAWG, DWAWG, at tceq.texas.gov, and we'll be able to monitor that email address and get back to you. Likewise, if you have something following up from today that you'd like to follow up with, we can get in touch with you through that email address. All right. Without further ado, let me make sure that Shannon's on here today, and we'll start into our program area updates and go over to Sharon Watson over in the occupational licensing division for their update.
Hi, good morning, Michelle. This is actually Tamara Calhoun. I'm here in place of Shannon Watson, and I do apologize. I don't have video available. My internet is very shoddy, so I hope I don't break up, but to help with that, I'm going to keep my video off so you guys can hear me. So just a few things. Last time we did mention a reminder about our BPAT waiver for the practical skills continuing education requirement will end on September 30th. So as some of you are aware, during this unprecedented time, classroom training was obviously canceled and hard to find. So we did waive that 8 hours hands-on practical skills training for BPAT licenses. However, they still were required to get a total of 24 hours. They just didn't have to get the hands-on during this time. So just a reminder, anyone renewing a BPAT license after September 30th, 2021 will be required to have the 8 hours hands-on practical skills. So that's quickly approaching. So if you know anybody, make sure they are on that and get that practical skills training to renew. Some other updates, beginning September 2021, we will finally begin paper exams again in all of our region offices. However, those exams will only be offered on a quarterly basis. Registration is available online as usual through our Lexer, which is our licensing exam registration portal on our website. We have made the decision to stagger those exams throughout the regions. This will prevent the exams from all being on the same month of September and November and whatnot. And also allow individuals to possibly go to another region to test sooner and not have to wait those 4 months during that time. We will also be offering paper exams at various special events that TCEQ staff attends and administers exams. One of the most common one is the TWA regional schools that are held on throughout the state, but there are some other special events that we do attend and administer those paper exams. So we'll have them a little bit more than the region offices at those special events as well. Another thing that we'd like to mention, our training approval team recently developed a guidance document for training providers who received provisional approval to help them transition their online live classes to a formal approval. So just to kind of give you a sense of that, during the pandemic, a lot of the training providers had to cancel their in-person classroom courses, according with state and local safety guidelines. And so to help them, to maintain that training, the approval team developed a protocol where the providers could gain provisional approval to offer what was normally a classroom training, offer it as a live online training on a temporary basis. They recently developed a guidance document for training providers who received that provisional approval to help them transition that. They expect to send this guidance document out soon. I believe I heard maybe possibly next week. So that is pretty soon. And again, this only applies to those training providers who received that provisional approval. Any training providers that were not granted that provisional approval or didn't request it, but would like to do it now, just would go through the regular normal approval process with our training approval team. And they'll be updating the RG 373 shortly to make sure that they include this live online training category within that to help training providers going forward that would like to offer that type of training. So that's pretty much all I have at this moment. We're just staying busy and trying to prep for exams that are going to be up and coming. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Tamara. I'm seeing something in the chat real quick. Rick Phelan asked, you mentioned BPAT. Can you tell the group what BPAT is?
Thank you. BPAT is a backflow prevention assembly tester license.
Thank you. And Rick, if you guys have a cross connection program and are doing backflow prevention, you may actually contract with someone who is BPAT licensed, but that's the license that they'd be doing to help you with your cross connection control program. Any other questions related to licensing or what's going on in the educational side of things right now? Teresa Mayorga has asked, will an online option for an A license still be offered?
Yes. The A water, are you talking about the A water operator license exam?
She asked by chat, so I do not know.
Okay. If she's Teresa, if you're referring to the A water, okay, yes. So yes, the A water will continue to be available online. Actually, that's going to be the only mode that it will be available going forward. This will allow us to open the session to the A wastewaters that is not currently available online and allow those individuals to test. Since now the A water is available by CBT, it opens a lot more opportunities for individuals to take the test.
Cassie Clay asked, do you have the passing rate for the A water license since the change in format?
I do not have it right at this moment, but when I'm done, I can definitely get that and I can put that in the chat room. I just don't have it up in front of me right now. Now, just keep in mind, we just revised this exam. So, you know, and we haven't administered that many compared to, you know, what you would do over a year's time or 2 years' time. So generally, the passing rate is very low in the very beginning until it averages out with more people testing. So just keep that in mind. It's typically low in the beginning, but will balance out later.
Thank you. Derek Turley asked, are classes starting to open back up for in-person classes?
As far as I know, yes. You know, there's still a lot of online classes that are being offered, but I am aware of a good handful of in-person classes that are being available. So it's up to the individual training providers of how they want to offer that training. So the best thing would be to just contact various training providers and see what your options are.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time this morning, Tamara. Folks, if you have any additional questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll be able to loop back around and hit on those later if we need be.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right. Our next item on the agenda is an OCE update. Zachary King is on the line with us this morning and indicated he doesn't have an update, but I just wanted to reach out to the folks who are attending to see if you had any questions for our field operations Office of Compliance and Enforcement. Zach, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Nope, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. So if by any chance you guys have anything moving forward about on-site visits or, oh, there we go. Teresa Mayorga asked, are the inspections back in person?
Those won't be back in person until the beginning of the fiscal year.
And that would be this September, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Once again, if you continue to have any more questions, if you could put those in the chat, and we'll loop back around and grab those. The next update I have is for the plan and technical review section. Mr. Joel Klump is out of the office right now, so he has Stephanie Escobar on his behalf. Stephanie, would you like to do an update for us? Thank you, ma'am.
Sure, no problem. Good morning, everybody. So just two very brief items to let you know about. First, our section welcomes a new team leader. Brian Matthews is the new team leader for the Response and Capacity Development Team. He is retired Air Force and is now had several years in state service here at TCQ, then at the University of Texas, and now back with us here at TCQ. So we want to welcome him. And then secondly, Senate Bill 905 was passed by the state legislature this session, and it requires the TCQ to create a regulatory guidance document that explains our rules that apply to direct potable reuse. Our section, the Plan and Technical Review section, will be creating a document that explains the process a PWS would take if they want to use wastewater effluent as a source of drinking water. And that is all we have to share with you today.
Thank you, Stephanie. I really appreciate that. If you guys have any questions for PTR moving forward, feel free to put those in the chat. But we do have an update from Dorothy Young about TWIC and capacity development. So let me hand it over to Dorothy. Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here to give you a quick update on TWIC. We're getting a lot of new folks attending the Drinking Water Advisory Work Group, so I'll briefly explain what TWIC is. It stands for the Texas Water Infrastructure Coordination Committee. It started 11 years ago when a bunch of agencies, funding agencies, regulatory agencies like EPA and TCEQ were working together to try to help a bunch of water systems that were having arsenic violations in the Waco area. We decided to keep meeting together, gave ourselves the name TWIC, and now we have a bunch of different kinds of agencies that are represented. We don't have money ourselves. We're made just like an umbrella organization trying to do one-stop shopping for water and wastewater systems that are looking for funding and other assistance. If you go to TWIC, TWICC.org, there's a website that is hosted by the Water Development Board. It has a funding inquiry form. It's a simple 2-page form you can fill out if you're really at a loss to where to look for outside funding or assistance. And it also has a regulatory guidance kind of document that it lists all the funding agencies, what kind of entities they can provide funding to, and has contact information. We meet every other month and take turns hosting meetings. The next one is tomorrow, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture is hosting it. You should have my contact information in the notes. You can contact anybody who's listed as a member of TWIC on that website to find out when the next meeting is going to be. We're pretty informal. We don't post a lot of information on the website as far as current events, but we'll be glad to talk to you. We also do workshops and do presentations at different kinds of conferences. So again, it's an opportunity to come and talk to all kinds of folks. You get USDA, Texas Department of Agriculture, Water Development Board, Public Utility Commission, GLO. FEMA participates now, and all kinds of folks. So it's just a good place to brainstorm. And also, besides funding, there are some folks there like Communities Unlimited and AWWA and Texas Rural Water Association who can provide assistance. So that's my update for now. Thanks. Any questions?
Thank you, Dorothy. Folks, I'm going to pause for a couple minutes just to see if you have anything for either Dorothy or Stephanie. All right, doesn't look that way. Then the next updates on the schedule are for myself, the drinking water standards section. My name is Michelleriscoe. I'm the manager of that section, and we have quite a few things going on. In the Revised Total Coliform Rule, we're going to have a presentation later this morning on quite a few updates we've made in the area to help you out. One thing I really want to put out there is for myself, just to selfishly put this out there, we do have a new sample siting plan template, which is accessible, that is out there and available to everybody. This does not mean that you necessarily need to update your sample siting plan, but I know that there had been a struggle before that it was in a non-accessible format that people struggled to download through Internet Explorer and struggled to download through Google Chrome. So now it is accessible. It should be open and available to everyone in every format and easily downloadable to your computer for ease of use. So I do want to put that out there to make sure that you know that is available to you, and a pretty great thing that hopefully will overcome some of the issues technically that people have had in the past. It is also lead and copper reduced monitoring right now, and I kind of wanted to hit on a few important items. For those of you who are potentially needing to monitor this year, start now, start early. Make sure that you know what your sample sites are. You should have those in your monitoring plan. If you're not 100% sure, please feel free to reach out to us. Although we do send those to you in your reminder letter, you may not have received that reminder letter yet, but we can provide what we have in our system for you to ensure that whenever you turn your paperwork into the laboratory, your sites match what's on file. This is very important because the rule is intending over time to look at the history and performance of sites. And so we want to make sure that those sites are correct. And we also want to make sure that we don't have to reject any samples for documentation errors. That is our number one issue we have with the lead and copper rule. So please feel free to reach out, pwslcr@tceq.texas.gov. We have everyone on the program checking that box on a regular basis, and we can just really quickly snip your sample sites and send those to you. Not only are sample sites important, but you also need somewhere to run those samples. So I want to remind everybody that you have the ability to choose any laboratory that is accredited. We do have a list of laboratories that are accredited, especially for the lead and copper rule, on our website. If you go to the PWSSP QAPP or Quality Assurance Project Plan page, we have unique locations. In the presentation later this afternoon or this morning, Jackie Hernandez will walk you through a map function we have that would allow you to find the lab closest to you that you may want to work with. Also, I wanted to make sure that everybody knows we have some resources available. So let me go ahead and share this real quick. If you haven't been on our lead and copper rule website recently, especially if you're coming into a sampling year, I would highly encourage you to do that. As you scroll through the page, you'll be able to see everyone who's on the schedule. So if you're a laboratory and you want to reach out to people and see whether you can help them with their sampling, here's your contact list. Same thing with the water quality parameters. This, if you're a water system, is to make sure that you yourself or the 20, 30, 40 water systems that you run, whether you are scheduled. Obviously, that's available at any time on Drinking Water Watch, but it's also available during the monitoring period here. We also have all the samples and instructions that you'll need. If you click on Reduced Monitoring, you'll bring up a sheet that literally shows you how to walk through your reduced monitoring and the minimum requirements that you have. We also have your guidance on classification tiers. If you need to update your sample site selections, please feel free to do that. Always, we have the forms available. I'll show you those in just a moment, but this can help you understand how you're supposed to classify those. And then when you're working with folks and you're trying to get them to help you by doing their homeowner collection, we have those instructions for you in both English and Spanish. And then as you continue forward, there's information about, how you can sample, how many you'll need. And then, of course, all of our forms to help you out are here. So 2467A for community systems, 2467B for non-community systems, the actual monitoring form itself, and the consumer notice for both English and Spanish at both community water systems and non-transient non-community systems. So hopefully we've put quite a few things here for you that it's a one-stop shop. And then if by any chance you were to have high levels and trigger an action level exceedance, all of the information you need to accomplish that is here as well. And information about your water quality parameters if you happen to be needing to take water quality parameters as well. As I mentioned, you can look down here and you can look for your approved laboratories and search for approved laboratories. And that will really help you be able to find someone to work with you during this reduced monitoring period. As always, we are here and available to help you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. As I mentioned, pwslcr@tceq.texas.gov. I did see a couple of questions in the sidebar here, so let me go ahead and try to address those. Okay, Alma McCalman asked, is there any start date for the new lead and copper rule? The answer is presumably yes. So they did do a delay until December of this year for the rule, which would lead to having to do compliance with the rule by October of 2023. So assuming everything moves forward, that is our new timeline. Obviously, we as the state will also take our time to, once the rule is finally set and out of stakeholder review with the Biden administration, we'll start forward on getting you Texas administrative code requirements. and we'll move forward with the rule at the state level. But that is the rule at the federal EPA level. David Hensel asked, last quarter it was mentioned that things might be starting to progress on the new, better way for laboratories to submit results reports for lead and copper. Any updates on that? The updates are, I don't know whether I should defer till Stephen gets on here, but yes, we're looking into doing that. I am going to tell you that it's going to be a while. We're going to need a grant to put that new system in place. So yes, we are moving forward with it, but you will not see any changes in the near future. Oh, and Teresa just said, thanks for the new courtesy compliance reminders. You're welcome. We very much try to help people out and especially give them the information they need, since we know that your sample sites are not available on Drinking Water Watch. We really hope that is going to cut down on some of the issues. We as a compliance, are wanting to put public health first and not documentation. But we do have to hold people to certain standards. So hopefully everything we can do to help you with that documentation will make a huge difference. Alma asked, it was mentioned before that there would be training once it was fully finalized. Will that still happen? Yes. Once the lead and copper rule is finalized, it's solid, it's no longer a moving target, we will be doing training modules, not just overviews of the rule, but, focusing on particular areas of the rule. So, if find and fix happens, we'll talk about find and fix. If the re-tiering structure changes as we expect it to, we will go do a presentation on the tiering structure. So yes, those things are still forthcoming, but we have delayed, putting them out there yet because we're not 100% sure what the rule will look like until the APA finalizes and put that last stamp on there. And what were the dates again for the new rule? So December of this year is when they've pushed the clock start date, and the compliance deadline has been moved until October of 2023. The PDW conference will be coming up, and there will be some presentations aiming toward that, but we are obviously still waiting to hear from EPA what the final rule is. Beyond the lead and copper rule, we are still, I want to put out there for the surface water treatment rule, if by any chance your water system is an alternative form user, so for instance, you use low pressure membranes, we did ask for you to start reporting on the new form in April, which would mean that it was due in May. If by any chance you have not done that and already certified to us, please take this opportunity to make that switch. We are going to be doing outreach in the oh, sorry, thank you. Laura included the exact days. So December of 16th of 2021. Oh, and I'm sorry, October 16th of 2024. All right. And then from a chem side of things, just a quick update that we want to make sure that if you are a system that typically operates on chloramines and you do a conversion to the free chlorine during, to address nitrification or for regular system maintenance, that you reach out to us and we can help coordinate with both your third-party sampler and then any samples required from your downstream customers. You can do that by emailing dbp@tceq.texas.gov. Typically, if you do that for more than 30 days within a year, that would now become your normal operating procedure, and we'd be limited on our coordination. But we do want to work with you because we want to make sure that public health is the #1 thing in our heads and in our purpose. So if you are needing to do that for addressing residual issues, please make sure to reach out to us. We can always assist in any way possible. To effectively address nitrification, the system should be converted and stay in that converted state where you're starving the bacteria for a minimum of 14 days. So to effectively do that, you might need slightly more if you're going to try and do it twice a year. But like I said, reach out to us if you're having any issues, and we can always coordinate with you and your downstream customers to the best of our ability within the rule. Then the final thing I want to put out there is this is not necessarily a TCEQ rule, but it is a rule that EPA directly implements, which is called the Unregulated Contaminant Monitoring Rule, or UCMR. And in this case, we're in the 5th iteration of that rule. Right now, we are working with the EPA to ensure that the data related to systems is accurate. The most important part of the data is not only your sources and stuff like that, but also your population, because it's how they categorize you at the EPA. If you are on the cusp of serving 10,000 people, that is the difference between you having to pay for the samples or the EPA assisting you in paying for those samples. So I'd encourage you to get on Drinking Water Watch and check what your official population is and coordinate with us if you feel that your population is not accurate. You can do that through PWS InVen at tceq.texas.gov. Or, obviously reach out to any of us and we'll be able to help you make sure that that data is accurate. So that way EPA schedules you appropriately. Also want to put out there that the UCMR5 monitoring is going to include 29 different PFAS, so different per and polyfluorinated compounds, and also lithium. So it's very, very, very focused on PFAS as part of the EPA's PFAS action plan. So please be ready to work with them on getting that data for our state. Those are all the updates that I had. And for those of you who were asking earlier, Tamara has placed the pass rates for the Class A water in the chat function at this time. All right, so from there, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Steven Swarenga of the Drinking Water Special Functions Group.
Thank you, Michelle. Get this video to work. Hi, how are you all doing today? I got first off a couple of links I'm going to drop into the chat for your reference, and then I am okay. Got my screen to work here, and then I am going to actually share my screen to highlight a couple of things. One is, of course, the Public Drinking Water Conference is coming up in August, so August 10th and 11th. This year, we're offering over 50 different sessions. The opening sessions, all of them will be live, and the every session will have a live element to them. And again, this year it's virtual, and we're expecting this to be a really great event. So we encourage you all to sign up. The links that I dropped in there, one of which is the sign up link for the PDW conference. There's also on this flyer, which is a great new thing that we're putting out, which is available on the DWAWG website, which is a DWAWG resources for operators, and so it runs through all the information that Michelle just provided, and also it's got this information for the Public Drinking Water Conference. So there's a link there also for your reference. You can click on that as well. The other thing I wanted to highlight is a new thing that we're doing, which is a courtesy reminder. These are basically reminders of any of the compliance programs. So if you've got chemical monitoring upcoming, monitoring for RTCR, when your CCR is due, your DLQR, your lead and copper monitoring requirements, I think this will be a great advent for helping folks make sure that they get that done. And then public health service fees and public notice rules, and this is just kind of the beginning of this. We're hoping that we'll be able to expand that so that we'll be able to do more and different kinds of reminders. And so we really encourage you all to go to the website. You get text or email reminders. When you go on there, there'll be a list of counties, and you just expand the counties. Well, first of all, you pop a telephone number in there, expand the list of counties, and you can select the system or systems that you're affiliated with. And then you'll receive notices about those systems. We also have an email method, so you get text or email. When you do the email registration, you'll get an actual email with a link in it that you'll need to click on and follow through on that to complete the registration. So those are two really great things that we've got coming up, and so we really encourage you all to sign up for it. And also just want to take a moment to thank all the systems that helped us to test this. We think this is going to be a really great product, and we're really looking forward to expanding the use of it. So also in response to the questions that we had earlier about the update on kind of where we're at with expanding our lab reporting. As Michelle mentioned, it will be this is a long-term project, and we're looking at least a year off. Right now, we have submitted a grant proposal to EPA, and we're waiting to hear back from them. And then if we are awarded the grant, then we will solicit a contract to have someone help us to implement this. So, like I said, it's at least a year off, but we're excited about it, and it will be a good development. I see Hector's got a question here about the beta testers needing to sign up again. I'm not 100% sure about that. I don't think it'll hurt you if you sign up again, because kind of behind the scenes, we're constantly sorting and making sure that we don't have dupes in there. If you were a tester, please feel free to sign up again. And if you need any guidance on that, Ryland Fields is our analyst that's been working on that. He's just done a bang up job on it, and so he'd be able to answer any of your questions. And again, his name is Ryland Fields. It's RYLAN Fields at tceq.texas.gov. And of course, as with all of our emails, there's a dot between the first and last name. So, and then I also wanted to mention that a little bit later, I'll be talking about Senate Bill 3 and the new EPP requirements. So stay tuned. That's all I got.
Thank you, Stephen. Does anybody else have additional questions for him while we're moving forward? All right. So our next update here then is from Jessica Hoke, our Quality Assurance Officer.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, like Michelle said, I'm the Quality Assurance Officer for the Drinking Water Program. And incidentally, Michelle gave me a really good intro in talking about the lab adherence checklist that she mentioned you could find on the PWSSP webpage. So if you're unaware, the Drinking Water Program has a list of labs which have stated that they are, in addition to accreditation requirements, adhering to the reporting and analytical requirements that are included within our Quality Assurance Project Plan, the QAPP or the QAP. We're currently actually working on a project to update those lab adherence checklists. So I'll hopefully have an additional update for y'all at the next DWAWG to let you know that there may be a new list of labs available for y'all to take a look and to make sure that your laboratory is adhering to the Quality Assurance Project Plan, so that you can be sure that the TCEQ is going to be able to accept the data that is reported by that lab. And related to the Quality Assurance Project Plan, the QAP, there will be a major revision that will be occurring during the year 2022 with an anticipated approval from the EPA sometime around November of 2022. So just as an update for any of the labs out there and also for the public water systems, the QAPP will be updated here shortly, in terms of, within the next year. It's a major revision that'll be going on, and I'll keep y'all updated on the progress of that. So if anybody has any questions, y'all are always welcome to reach out to me directly. My email address is jessicahope.tceq.com, like Stephen just mentioned, or alternatively, y'all are welcome to reach out to pwsqa@tceq.texas.gov. And if I'm not the person to answer your question, I'm always happy to help try and direct you to the right people. So does anybody have any questions for me right now? Oh, one final thing. Related to the LCR data and what you had asked, I think it was David. Yeah, David, or DT. We are working currently on assigning a auto reply, which has nothing to do with an out of office reply, but it's a server bounce back to the mailboxes, the proxy boxes like LCR data that receive data from the labs. And this is an auto reply which should always go back. So if you are not receiving a bounce back reply when submitting your data for any of the labs out there, please reach out to us so that we can try and address the situation. And this is a way that we're trying to assure that we are able to receive the data during this time period where we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we're going to get this grant and be able to produce and develop a different method for reporting the data. So I got a question from Casey Clay that says, is that an update on a specific section of the QAPP? So just to give you all an idea of how the QAPP is updated and approved, the QAPP is like I said, a quality assurance project plan. It basically describes how the program is going to implement the requirements of the Safe Drinking Water Act and the regulations related to that. And so this is an EPA approved document. Our QAPP is a 3-year QAPP, which means that every 3rd year there's an opportunity for a major revision. So no specific updates, no specific sections within the QAPP am I ready to talk about being updated. But if anybody has any particular concerns or questions about a specific section, I am open to getting some feedback from people who need to adhere to the QAPP, because I do think that that's the best way to create a document which is easily understandable by the people that need to be using it. So, you know, rather than me over here telling you all the things that you need to do, I would like to open up a dialogue. So if there are any particular concerns you have related to the QAPP, Casey, please feel free to reach out to me. But we'll be taking a look at the entirety of the document, which includes the programmatic QAPP, which is the main document, and each of the 10 addenda documents attached to it. So to give you an idea of how big this document is, where is my QAPP? This is just the addenda documents. So this is a large undertaking, and just to kind of give you guys an idea of that. And so again, if you have any specific concerns, please feel free to reach out to me, but no specific section that I can talk about at this moment.
Thank you, Jessica. All right. Well then, we also have an update coming from Miss Brittany Teagle about the winter storm project plan and survey that they have going on.
Good morning. I'm going to try and share my screen. I have like 3 of them going on, so I apologize if this gets all crazy and wonky. Okay, Michelle, how's that look? Can you see?
I cannot yet.
Okay.
Do you have the red box around it?
I do have the red box around it. Steven says it looks great.
Yeah, I can see it. No
It's
problem.
a Michelle problem. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just start talking, and if you have the slides, that's great. And otherwise, I guess you can listen. I don't know. I apologize. But good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. I am Brittany Worthen Teagle, Special Assistant for the Plan and Technical Review section in the Water Supply Division. I'm here to provide an update on the after-action review of Winter Storm Yuri and the impacts to public water systems. Some of this information is repeat from last update just to refresh your memory. So Winter Storm Yuri, which occurred the week of February 14th, 2021, brought significant weather to the entire state of Texas. This included extremely low temperatures paired with freezing precipitation. These conditions impacted the critical infrastructure in the state, including electrical service, water utilities, and roadways. Approximately 2,000 public water systems in the state issued a boil water notice as a direct result of the storm. As a result of the significant impact to public water systems, the TCEQ commissioners requested an after-action review be performed. The after-action review project team has made significant strides in gathering and reviewing information pertaining to both the impacts and successes experienced by public water systems in Texas during Winter Storm Yuri. This slide lists the major milestones associated to the project. We are holding a roundtable discussion this morning. Also, we have added another roundtable discussion to the schedule to be held next Tuesday. And we will continue to analyze the results of the survey, researching weather resiliency related rules and guidance documents used by other states and water associations, and preparing for multiple trainings related to water system resiliency that will be provided at the PDW conference in August. We appreciate every water system, water operating company, engineering group, laboratory, association, agency, etc., other stakeholders who have participated in this project so far. Your input is invaluable and will be used to formulate recommendations that may include new laws, regulations, guidance documents, and/or training programs intended to boost resiliency and mitigate impacts from future potentially catastrophic weather events. The recommendations are due to the commissioners with a summary of findings in March 2022. I'll provide some information about the milestones we have reached so far and our next steps for the project in the following few slides. So we created a public water system survey that opened in May. Advertising postcards were mailed, emails were sent through multiple avenues, including this DWAWG email list, through the advocate and directly to identified stakeholders, including other state agencies and water-related associations. We are still accepting survey responses at this time. So if you haven't yet taken the survey, please do so, and I will provide a link to find it in the next few slides. The project team has conducted roundtable discussions with interested parties from across the state to create a platform of open dialogue. The first of our 4 discussions was held on June 29th. During these discussions, we have touched on the major impacts and successes that were noted during the storm. The project team has gathered insightful information and suggestions from stakeholders regarding potential changes to rules, guidance documents, and training, etc., that would be beneficial for preparing for or responding to future significant weather emergencies. We've been learning about the most and least significant impacts from the storm, as well as what some systems believe to be the actions that saved them from experiencing larger issues. These discussions are helping us understand where to focus our attention for when we develop our list of recommendations. The project team is conducting a review of rules and regulations regarding to water system resiliency, including the regulations from other states. The team is also reviewing current available literature from water sector organizations to identify best practices to enhance public water system resilience. So for instance, we've reached out to a lot of the states with different climates than ours, especially some of the states up north, and we've reviewed the 10 state standards recommendations document to try and get an idea of what other states and other areas are doing. The PDW conference will have multiple presentations that are intended for PWSs to help build resiliency, including discussions regarding the winter storm. In addition to the more technical presentations, we will also be hosting a much larger discussion and update on the Winter Storm Yuri and the After Action Review project. And I wasn't in a position to list some of the specific statistics from our survey responses and roundtable discussions at this time, but by the drinking water conference, I'll be able to shed a little bit more light on the actual lessons learned and statistics from the survey and these discussions. In addition to the PDW conference, TCEQ is either hosting or partnering with other entities to host webinars and workshops related to resiliency. Some of these are listed on this slide. We're getting a lot of questions about Senate Bill 3, which is kind of a little bit related to the project because it was, in response to the storm. But I think there's going to be a discussion later on in this call, and then there will also be some discussions at PDW and other workshops outside of those framework. Moving forward, we are going to review all of the information gathered through the survey, roundtable discussions, and literature review to determine what updates, if any, need to be incorporated into the state's rules, regulations, and what should remain outlined as best practices and guidance documents or training to allow for flexibility considering the significantly varied climate in the state. As mentioned before in this presentation, the recommendations will be provided to the commissioners by the end of March 2022. For additional information regarding the project, including the link to take the survey, information about roundtable discussions, like how to register for the final one that is scheduled for next Tuesday, the 27th, and other general information about the storm impacts, please visit our webpage. The link is listed on the screen. You can also find a link to this webpage on the main drinking water webpage on the TCQ website. If you have any questions or concerns relating to the After Action Review project, please send them to this email address, winterstorm_pws@tceq.texas.gov. My personal work email and phone number are also listed if you need or would like to contact me directly. I know I've mentioned that we're updating, looking for input for potential rules, guidance, etc. So the information that we're receiving from the water sector is an enormous part of this project and how we're forming our recommendations. So if you have the time and you haven't yet taken the survey, please go do so. If you have the time and haven't participated in a roundtable discussion, please follow the link on the prior slide and please sign up for the last roundtable that is currently scheduled for next Tuesday. These things are not compliance based. It's fact gathering so that we have information. We can't do anything about the issue if we don't know what happened and we don't know how the water industry was directly impacted and what the biggest impacts were. So that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions.
Brittany, I noticed Alma asked, will there be other training on this provided for those who can't attend the PDW conference?
We haven't discussed scheduling anything at this time, but one of the common themes we've been hearing and reading through the survey and through the roundtables is that people want training. And so there will be training. It won't be as soon as the PDW conference. We are going to be developing guidance documents. In fact, we have a guidance document that's been posted to our After Action Review webpage for folks who want to plan for potential rolling blackouts if that were to happen again. And there will be training relating to water system resiliency outside of PDW. Again, we just haven't discussed any scheduling yet.
Thank you. Stephen, I noticed your hand's up. Did you want to ask a question?
No, I just wanted to chime in and say that the PDW conference, all of the sessions will be recorded. And so those will be available for viewing afterwards. So I would suggest that even if you can't actually make the PDW conference, that you would register because then you'll have access to those videos.
Thank you. Brittany, there's also a question from Nicholas Cook. Do you know how many PWSs made changes to their emergency response plan versus changes to the ERP would not have made a difference?
I don't have that information at this time.
And things like that at some of the plants. One of the bigger issues were systems that they had to kind of either tow behind or just.
I think we just lost you, or you went on mute inadvertently.
Well, if
Okay.
you have any questions and you want to reach out to me, my email, I can repeat it since I stopped sharing my screen. You can do winterstorm_PWS@tceq.texas.gov if you have questions for me or about the project. Also, you can reach out to me directly at Brittany, BRITTNEY .Teagle, TEAKELL @tceq.texas.gov.
Thank you, Britt. Would you mind putting it in the chat by any chance?
I sure will.
Awesome. All right. So I do have two small resiliency issues, or hopefully quick, not small, that I wanted to bring up before we go on break and come back for educational items. But I wanted to put these out there and see if anybody had anything to share or add about what they're experiencing. So on June 30th, the EPA put out a letter indicating they'd heard there could be chlorine shortages from major chlorine suppliers, and they would ask that if you're experiencing any issues that you report those up through EPA to see whether they might need to take further action on their part. We did share that letter out to the DWAWG email group, and I just wanted to see if anybody is experiencing any issues or has anything to share related to that, while we're kind of all in the same group and might be able to benefit from that information. Okay. Obviously, if you want to share at a later time or put it in the chat, you're more than welcome to do so. Another item related to resiliency is cybersecurity. So I believe most of you have been made aware, and we've also shared this in the past, that there have been quite a few either successful or attempted hacking opportunities for people to enter into control of SCADA systems and public water system chemical feeds to attempt to adjust those, or to make changes which could negatively impact public health. So I did want to put that out there, that the EPA is working and really looking to see if they can get whatever feedback available related to cybersecurity, and even the smallest intrusion attempt that your facility might have encountered, and that we'd be really interested in hearing about any of those. So please feel free to let us know if you have any of those. And I understand it's a security concern. You may want to just share the smallest of details, or do so in a more anonymous fashion than this open forum, and I get that. But please feel free to reach out to myself or to Stephen, and we would love to know what's going on from a security perspective for y'all, and then also be able to be more informing to EPA in the workshops that they are doing related to that. I did notice that Nick put in a question. Do you know how, I'm sorry, we saw a 3-week delay on ammonia and other chemicals, asking for a month notice. Okay, so you are seeing somewhat of a delay. Ammonia is new. We hadn't actually heard of that. So I might be in contact with you to find a little bit more information about that. As I indicated, if you have any knowledge of any communications from your wholesaler or anything like that, please feel free to inform us. Being as we, the TCEQ, do not buy chlorine, and we certainly don't buy it in the quantities that you do. If there's an issue, you're the only way we're going to find out. So thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. With that said, we're about an hour in, so I'm going to go ahead and put us on a 10-minute break. If we can come back at 10:08, and we'll start with our presentation portion of the DWAWG. Thank you guys very much. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for rejoining us this morning at the Drinking Water Advisory Work Group. We're going to come on back from our 10-minute break and start into the presentation portion of our agenda. The first presentation we have this morning is a quick legislative recap, trying to go through some of the water-specific items. So hopefully you can stay up to speed on what your legislature was trying to do during this legislative session. So first thing to discuss is that this was the 87th legislative session of the Texas legislature. Over 7,000 bills were filed, and about 15% of those passed, slightly over 1,000 bills. The district section, which is part of the Water Supply Division, was very busy and had 60 new districts created. The governor has taken it upon himself to call a special session. The emphasis of that special session is not on water or utilities, so we are unlikely to see any additional legislative action at this time. The things that were put forward during the regular legislative session had a focus on Winter Storm Yuri, the impacts of that, what happened there, and then also preparedness, being ready should it happen again, something similar should happen again, and resiliency overall, just making our systems and our state more resilient so that we are not as negatively affected by unique situations as we potentially were with Winter Storm Yuri. Let's start with what didn't pass. Well, why are we even talking about these? This kind of gives you an idea of what people are interested in, although they may not have the votes to get more done. So what didn't pass, a large part of what was put forth but didn't pass was people being concerned about school water, the quality of the water that we're serving to children at schools and daycares. Several bills were filed on this part. Lead in schools in particular, Collier filed House Bill 303, Gervin-Hawkins filed House Bill 605, and Tallarico filed House Bill 2038. And on the Senate side, Menendez filed a Safe School Water Plans bill, which was a little more holistic, but very focused on lead and copper. None of these made it to the governor's desk, but some of them made it to committee substitute status. So they did move along through the process. A lot of why potentially they didn't move forward at this point in time was discussions about the fact that some provisions similar to what they're asking for in these bills are included in the new lead and copper rule revisions. They are asking for people to sample at schools. They are asking for people to be informed about the 3 Ts, things like that. The diagram that you're seeing on the right hand of this display, this PowerPoint slide, is the 3 Ts. This comes directly from EPA's website. Their 3 Ts program, which I would highly encourage you to read through if you have not already, is about training, so communicating to the schools about what the 3 Ts are, and learning about drinking water, its potential health impacts, especially when it relates to lead, and then testing, which means planning how you're going to do that through the 3 Ts program, developing that testing plan, and then actually conducting that testing. A lot of what you're seeing there is what you, as a public water system, could be called on, or likely will be called on based on the proposed rule that was promulgated. Is similar to, reaching out, finding out how your schools and daycares are, making sure that you meet those minimum requirements of 5 sample sites or 2 sample sites, depending on the type of location, developing how that will happen. How are you going to get those first draw samples? Who are you going to coordinate with at each school? And then also the actual conducting of that sampling. Since 3 Ts is not the same sampling as lead and copper tap samples, you're talking a smaller sample size, you're not talking a liter. So actually conducting that and making sure it's done in the proper fashion, making sure that you've communicated that properly to your laboratory. All those types of things are part of conducting. And then, of course, closing the loop is taking action. So it's actually finding out you have a problem. So what do you do about that problem? How are you going to do that? How are you going to establish a routine to improve? And then also, how are you going to make that available to the public and keep those records so that you can go through this again and hopefully obtain improvement over time? Once again, this is the kind of thing that you as a water system would be called on under the new lead and copper rule. If EPA promulgates it similar to how they have proposed it, to, communicate to the schools what their issues are, communicate to them what the 3 T's are, have them find out what kind of funding is available to help them with remediation. And then, of course, record keeping means they need to be sending that documentation into you and us as the state to make sure that this is being done properly. So by and large, that could potentially be why these school water concerns were not necessarily moved forward more in the session. They also focused a lot on communications. Shaheen, House Bill 1030, was focusing on public notice methods and potentially making those methods more technologically advanced, being able to get away from potentially newspapers and radio and television, which people don't necessarily use as their primary information sources anymore. Obviously, we are generally tied by the EPA's public notice rule, which has not been updated to include those things, but we could be, if the legislature, chose, more stringent in the future at a state level to allow for different items of to communicate to your folks. We do want to let you know that our rule does allow you to use electronic delivery, but it does require you to, do some work up front. So whenever people sign up for you, when they do a customer service agreement, getting their email, getting their permission to text them, getting their permission to do SMS messaging, potentially like we're doing with the consumer, with the courtesy reminder system, making sure that they sign up and they have a fair opportunity to be notified of items related to their water system. So although the bill did not pass, there's an opportunity for you guys to know that that's potentially coming up in the future. People, especially legislators, are interested in that, which means that their constituents are interested in that. They've also talked about meetings and websites, especially during the pandemic. Being able to go to an in-person meeting was significantly less possible. So Gates and Colcourse put out items to potentially allow for virtual meetings, meetings through electronic means, as well as meetings to be more accessible, not just from a computer accessibility standpoint, but also from a geographic standpoint and also a language barrier standpoint. We as an agency are pressing forward to ensure that we have as many things as possible available in Spanish to cater to a large portion of the Texas population. Also, they were moving forward with Stevenson's House Bill 2148 about discussing how people are notified of potential contaminations and making sure that people do know as quickly as possible when public health could potentially be impacted. Once again, this is one of those things I would just encourage you as a public water system to say, okay, well, if something terrible happened, how will we tell people and could we be sure everyone knew? Yuri was a good situation, or potentially a bad situation from the perspective that it didn't always work. People didn't necessarily get the internet, media and television information about their boil water notice because they were without power or they were without internet, and I now get their TV through the internet. So, good time to think back on how you let people know these things. And then also just your general communication. One thing that we found, especially in that next section there, boil water notices and outage notification. Some people do not know who their water system is. So even if they have a boil water notice posted to the media, they may not understand that it applies to them, or they may think it applies to them, although that's not who actually provides their water. So now's a good time in the non-emergency situations to really be pressing to people, who are you? Who is providing their water? Who should they be paying attention to? And really putting it out there about how you're going to communicate with them if something happens, and that they know who's in charge of that for them. There was also discussion of reorganization or studies. For instance, potentially PUC being transferred back to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality through Lucio House Bill 3650. There were also a request to study or create a plan to protect water treatment facilities. really taking an inventory of everything across the state and how we could potentially benefit by protecting those facilities. And then also potentially an annual report of water treatment facilities that would go back up to the legislature. That's kind of like almost like the EPA's DWINSA, or Drinking Water Infrastructure Needs Survey. So bear in mind, these things are, like I said, important to your legislators and potentially the constituents who are your customers. So these are the kind of things that they may be wanting you to move toward in the future. As I mentioned, there is a lot of information, a lot of press to be more resilient, to be more self-sufficient, to lessen impacts in a changing world. Creighton asked for backup wells at hospitals, which, just so you guys know, that's already allowable. Some hospitals in the state do already have wells. It's just a matter of how they're being treated and making sure that they're up to speed and ready to go if an emergency were to happen. Paul also put forward a bill to require backup power for every water treatment plant. That did not move forward, but as you'll hear from Stephen later, other items related to emergency power did move forward. And then also Goldman put forward a bill to discuss every water supply being designated as a critical load entity with their public water, or with their utility provider, their electric provider. So now here's the success stories. What did pass? Schwertner, Senate Bill 3, which, as I mentioned, Stephen's going to talk to you about in more detail later. It requires water utilities to have emergency plans. It basically expands the EPP, which is the Emergency Preparedness Plan, statewide. Previously, this was only required in Harris and Fort Bend counties. It also gives additional options for compliance related to that. There were previously, I believe, 7 or 8, and now there's 11. He'll talk to you on the details. And then also it requires that not only do you have that plan, because EPA does require an emergency response plan, but you just have to certify to the EPA, whereas in this case, you're actually going to have to submit that plan to the TCEQ for review. And as indicated, there's a much more robust standalone presentation coming up. This bill also put forth the need for a disaster alert system. This alert system would be managed by the Department of Public Safety, and it's activated when power supply may not meet demand, and the PUC will need to adopt rules related to it. So it may be good for you to keep your eye open to see, as those come forward, how that could potentially impact you. Reuse, as Stephanie mentioned in her PTR update, Senate Bill 905 requires TCEQ guidance for direct potable reuse, and they are working to generate that regulatory guidance. It also was put forth by Perry and another constituent, Burroughs and Kings, respectively, on Senate Bill 601 and House Bill 3516, how other waters are managed. For instance, 601 was created to talk about the Texas Produced Water Consortium and create that to talk about and keep in the forefront Texas produced water. And then House Bill 3516 updated how the Railroad Commission will be handling produced water moving forward and the rules associated to that. ERCOT, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, had 2 bills that were very focused on them as related to the winter storm. So restructures and appointments to the board were changed, and then also an independent audit. So because quite a few of you probably were impacted by electricity during Yuri, this might be of interest to you. And as I mentioned, the Public Utility Commission was also impacted. Senate Bill 2154 expanded their board from 3 members to 5. There was a significant exodus after the winter storm Yuri, and this, I guess, gives additional board members to potentially remain solvent as they move forward. And then Buckingham and Cryer moved the sunset reviews of PUC and ERCOT both forward 2 years to 2023 from 2025. This is one that covers a lot more than just water, but I wanted to put out there. The state as a whole is recognizing that there are workforce issues. So some of these could really help us in the water utility field, getting more people interested and potentially trained and qualified to be both water and wastewater operators. So Murphy and Betancourt, which is House Bill 3767, establishes the Tri-Agency Workforce Initiative. And a lot of the intent behind this is to support the alignment of education and workforce development with state needs. So if, we are able to communicate effectively that the state needs more operators, both water and wastewater, to the Tri-Agency Workforce Initiative, they can work to align the education process to get more people able to do those at a state level. And then House Bill 3938 establishes an industry-based certification advisory council. So it advises on the alignment of high school career and technology education programs with workforce needs. This could be something that as we move forward with operational licensing and keeping people properly qualified within the state, the ability to get more folks in the high school level training towards those requirements for licensing. And then, of course, Senate Bill 1102 establishes the Texas Reskilling and Upskilling Through Education, or TRUE program, and it is working to get workforce education through coordination with junior colleges. So right now, we rely heavily on TEACs, TRWA, those types of folks to get operators trained and keep them trained once they're in the field. But potentially through junior colleges, you can get more fresh people from the outside trained in the basics and then enter into the field. So this is by and large the items that were either of interest or actually passed during this legislative session. As I indicated, we are currently in a special session. We could be, we could be having more special sessions called, but it is unlikely based on the current tone that those would be focused on waters or water utilities. With that said, I'll pause for a few moments to see if anybody has any questions. As I mentioned, though, our next presentation is on Senate Bill 3. So that one I know greatly impacts you guys. And that would, probably if you have questions related to that, it'd be good to pause. John Lozano, to clarify, existing ERPs developed for OWIA can be modified and used to satisfy TCEQ's requirements set forth in SB 3. I'll have to defer on that one to the next presentation. I don't want to give you incorrect information. So we'll go ahead and star that for later. With that, I'll go ahead and stop presenting and get this handed over to Stephen to discuss Senate Bill 3 in more detail.
Thank you, Michelle. And John, I'll have to consult and get back to you on a response to that question. So I have a presentation prepared. Letty de Leon is our lead person on emergency preparedness plans and is going to be leading us forward with these new requirements. Unfortunately, she had a conflict in her schedule and wasn't able to join us today. And so I may have to defer to her to answer some of your questions. So I'll do the best that I can and provide as much information as I can. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started with just a general overview. And thank you, Michelle, by the way. I thought your overview of all the things that happened in session was really good, and I appreciated especially going over the things that didn't pass, because you're right, those are things that our legislators care about, and meaning all the constituents of those legislators care about those things, and so it's good for us to pay attention to them. So thank you. So just a quick overview on Senate Bill 3. So the governor signed it on June 6th. Senate Bill 3 has, as Michelle mentioned, a bunch of different things in it. And what I'm focused on now is what changes it did to our emergency preparedness plans. So it adds a section to the Texas Water Code, that's section 13.1394. Previous section, which is still in effect, is 13.1395. And so this basically tacks on this additional requirement. And it requires all affected utilities across Texas to prepare and implement an emergency preparedness plan. So, so what's an affected utility? It's defined in that section I just mentioned as any retail public utility, exempt utility, or provider or conveyor of potable or raw water service that finishes water service that furnishes, excuse me, water service to more than one customer. And so, and just to clarify, it's um, Senate Bill 3, it only applies to the other 252 counties besides Harris and Fort Bend counties. So, um, uh, and then, the types of applicable systems. So it's water systems that are providing water to customers that are either full-time or temporary residents. So, all community water systems would be considered applicable systems. And those, you know, as mentioned, this first bullet are public water systems with residential customers, but also hospitals, assisted living centers, nursing homes, prisons, hotels, recovery. So basically, any place where you would have somebody that is there for more than 24 hours. And then, what is an emergency preparedness plan? So an EPP proposes to TCEQ how the water system will maintain a water pressure of at least 20 psi throughout the distribution system when the power has been off for more than 24 hours during an emergency, and contains emergency information, emergency contact information for the public and for us. So there are now 14 options for those 252 counties. Still, Harris and Fort Bend County are limited to the options that are available to them in Water Code 13.395. So all monitoring is conducted in accordance with Title 30, Texas Administrative Code, Subchapter F. You know what? I think this may be an error in that slide, so I apologize. Um, Source and plant distribution details include. Okay, these are the needed things: the plant schematic, and then the analytical procedures laboratories that are performing. This is a mistake in here. I apologize for that. I don't know what happened here. I lost some of my slides. I'm sorry about that. I had another slide deck, and apparently I've confused the two. So let me just put you on pause here a minute, because I think that's really important for you all to have the opportunity to see those things. So let me stop sharing my screen, and let's see here. I apologize for that confusion. Stop sharing my screen and grab. I don't know why that got confused there. So Sean, if you're listening, you may also want to check our website and make sure that that's updated. Okay, good, thank you. I must have just grabbed the wrong one here as I was editing. So, all right. So it looks like I've got the right one here now. I apologize for that confusion. Okay, let me make this so that it's larger so everybody can see. There we go. And so, so I just had defined the affected utilities, and now have here what are the non-affected utilities. So if if your water system is non-community system without any overnight accommodations, you wouldn't be affected by this requirement. So, schools that don't have dormitories, daycare centers, restaurants, banks, etc. The real key is there that you don't have an overnight accommodations. So we are right now sorting through all of our data, and we will be sending out letters to both affected and non-affected utilities, letting you all know, that you're all required to comply with this. But I wouldn't delay at all. We've got a really tight timeline on these things, and so we're working as quick as we can to get all this information out to you all. So, um, so again, an EPP is a water systems plan to provide water during an extended power outage. So it's a power outage greater than 24 hours. And water pressure needs to be maintained at or above 20 psi throughout the distribution system. And as I mentioned before, it has emergency contact information. So here now are the EPP options. This is again under 1394. So this includes now 14 options, and as an expansion of those that were already available in 13.1395. Automatically starting generators, shared use of generators with other affected utilities, and it includes participating in the statewide mutual aid program, leasing of generators or having a generator and an emergency mutual aid agreement with other affected utilities, using potable generators at facilities equipped with a quick connect system, using on-site electrical generation or distribution system facilities, and then hardening the electrical transmission distribution system of the affected utility. So these options are all new options and are going to need to be paired with another option. So for existing utilities, the maintenance of direct engine or right angle drives, designation of the affected utility as a critical load facility, or the affected utility has dedicated electrical feeds, water storage capabilities, water supplies delivered from outside the service area of the affected utility, the ability to provide water through artesian flows, redundant interconnection between pressure planes, emergency water demand rules, to maintain emergency operations and any other alternative determined by the commission to be acceptable. So, like I said, these options need to be done in conjunction with another. Right now, there's, obviously these are, new, and some of them these options need more clarification so that we understand kind of what those options, what all would be acceptable to meeting those options. So our engineers are currently looking at them, evaluating kind of what will this option look like? What would be acceptable to us for this option? And so at this point, where we've come to is basically these need to be paired with another option for these 14, or excuse me, for these 7. Stay tuned. We are working as quick as we can to get those options defined, and how we would accept that criteria. We are working to update our website to give more information to you all that will help you as you work towards implementing your EPP. In accordance with the Texas Water Code 13.1394, an affected utility must submit their EPP to TCEQ by March 1, 2021. Pardon me, for review and approval. And an effective utility must implement their approved EPP by July 1st, 2021. There is in the bill the opportunity for an affected utility to request a 90-day extension to either submit or implement their EPP for good cause. Gosh, this thing got a hair trigger. So EPP assistance. As I mentioned before, we're developing our website. We're also developing documents to assist affected utilities. An EPP template is being created now. It's expanding the template that existed. And affected utilities will be sending letters, as I mentioned earlier, as well. And then again, the web page is under development and should be posted fairly soon with additional information. So what resources are available? You can reach out to Letty De Leon, who's the EPP coordinator. We've actually set up an EPP hotline. It's 512-239 EPP1, so 3771. She's available through both of those. I would strongly encourage you all to use this rather than to contacting Letty directly, as she is obviously fielding quite a lot of calls and is working as hard as she can to get all this stuff organized and ready for you all. I would also really encourage you to submit any questions you have to the PDW EPP mailbox. The mailbox is a great tool for us to be able to distribute to folks that can answer the questions that you have. Those are two great methods to get a hold of us. We are also working towards creating an FMT assistance module to help folks prepare their EPP. And so you can contact our FMT team through the FMT mailbox. More information is available about FMT on this website. And of course, you can call our general telephone number at 512-239-4691. Tell them that you're looking for some FMT assistance, and they will connect you with our staff that handle those things. Are there any questions? Hopefully, my mix-up on the presentation didn't cause too much confusion, but I'm happy to field what I can, and then I will defer everything else to Letty to answer and respond to. So I'll end the slideshow there and take your questions. Well, so Rick, I see your at least one of your questions here regarding the non-community systems. So that's not necessarily true that all non-community systems wouldn't meet the definition. There are some that would, and so those are as I mentioned, we're sorting through our data right now to identify those. Again, the real sticking point is those overnight accommodations. So we are working as quick as we can to get the template done again for you, Rick. And we will, as soon as it's available, we will put it on our website and share with this group to make sure that everybody's aware. So yes, Remington, in response to your question, yes, transient systems with only one on-site resident will be required to prepare an EPP. Let's see. Thank you, Rick. I'm glad that at least the website was accurate. And Senate Bill 3, yes, Rick, also does not apply to Harris County because Senate Bill, whatever the Senate Bill was before that implemented Texas Water Code 13.1395 is what applies to Harris County. So you guys would have the same options that were available. It does not expand the number of options that are available to Harris and Fort Bend counties. Are there any other questions? Yes, that's correct, Kristen. It does not apply to Fort Bend County. Again, Letty De Leon is our lead person for our emergency preparedness plans. And that last slide I had up had her email address. I don't think I'm gonna drop her email address in. I'm gonna drop in the email address for the PDW EPP web box that will, we've got multiple staff that are in there, and they will definitely be able to track your, oops, I included the bullet point, but address is still there, and those staff will be able to respond to any of your questions that you may have. If there are no others, I'll end here and pass on the mic to the next person.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yep.
Folks, if you have any questions, please feel free to let us know. Obviously, there is the existing EPP website that can kind of give you background on the previous program and maybe be a good place for you to refer to where we'd likely be going with the new program. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to discuss or potentially are concerned about related to SB3? Okay, well then our next presentation is going to be ahead of schedule here, but that's all right. Jackie Hernandez with the Revised Total Coliform Rule program will be talking to you about some updates to that program and some lab maps we've put out there to hopefully assist you guys.
Thank you, Michelle. Give me 1 second. Let me try to get my
No problem.
shared.
Just as an FYI to everybody who's joining us today, if you go to our website at TCEQ, just go to TCEQ's website and use the search bar box to put in DWAWG, DWAWG. We have PDF versions that are accessible for all of the presentations you're seeing here today, as well as the program updates and the flyer with updates for operators. So please feel free to swing by and grab those. And then, as was mentioned earlier, this presentation itself is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, the agency's YouTube channel. Once again, if you go to the agency's YouTube channel and put in DWAWG, you'll come up with our historic DWAWGs, and you can sort them by date to find this. It usually takes about a day or two for me to coordinate and get that posted. All right, thank you very much. With that, I'll hand it off to Jackie. Jackie, are you presenting? If so,
Sorry,
you're on mute.
I was muted.
Okay. Thank you.
Give me 1 second. I stopped sharing. Okay. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I can.
And can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see both you and your presentation. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you. All right, well, my name is Jacqueline Hernandez, and I work with the Revised Total Coliform Rule program. And today I'm going to give you just a quick overview of some changes that we've made in RTCR. Not specifically the rule, but within the program and the resources we have available for you. Oh gosh. So to begin, I'm going to be talking about the RTCR website, the RG2421, and the lab maps that we've created. So the RTCR website has gotten a new makeover. We've updated the information and broken it down into sections so that it is easier to understand and to navigate. And we've also updated the sample siting plan template and the seasonal startup procedure forms, as well as our microbial sampling example SOP. And I encourage you all to visit our new RTCR website to find helpful resources and links, such as previous presentations that we've made, as well as links to other programs like our FMT program. And as always, you can find forms that are related to the RTCR and any information to help you remain in compliance with the RTCR. You can use the link here shown on the screen, or you can also Google TCEQ RTCR to find our website. So for the RG21, this has also been revamped and organized to bring it up to date and to make it easier to use and to understand. So major changes include a new name. It is now the Coliform Monitoring, Analyzing, and Reporting Guidance. This new update now reflects the current RTCR. Before it was the old rule, which was the TCR. And we've also broken this guidance into sections to be easier to navigate. We now have a new section regarding the treatment technique triggers, assessments, and corrective actions. And the guidance can also be found on our website. Again, you can use the link that's here on the screen, but you can also Google TCEQ RG421 to find it if you don't go to our website. Although I highly encourage you to go to our website. And then now the lab maps that we've created. These are maps that are going to be showing the NELAP accredited drinking water public laboratories that are in Texas. And they're intended to help public water systems find a lab near them. These were created using Google Maps, and that was to make them easier to use, since mostly everybody can use Google Maps. We have a total of 4 lab maps, which are broken down by the microbial, lead and copper, and water quality parameter analyte testing that is provided by the laboratories, as well as a combined map that includes all of the labs and all of the analytes along with a map table. So to begin, this is the combined map, and it's showing all of the public labs. This map is going to be located on our PWSSP webpage, and it's going to open in a new, once you click on the link, it'll open up on a new tab, and this is what you'll see. I hope you can see my mouse, but what you'll see here for this combined map is that you're going to see numbers instead of location pins for where the laboratories are located. And then you'll see this list of laboratories they match up with the number. And so this map is intended to be used with the map table, and you will match the lab by using this lab number to the map table. In addition to, just looking around and trying to see where you are, you can use this magnifying glass right here. Once you click on here, you'll be able to enter your location, and it's going to move the map to that location, and then you can zoom out to see what laboratories are near you. Again, this lab map is going to be on our PWSSP webpage, and the link for that is down here. Next, I want to show you a little bit of the map table. Again, it's going to include all of the laboratories, specifically all the public laboratories, and again, it's going to be listed on our PWSSP webpage, and you will be able to match what's on the lab map to the map table by using this first column, which is the map ID. And it's going to include the 3 analytes that that they're going to be testing. And in addition to that, it's going to include like their contact information. And finally, for the microbial testing laboratories, we also included whether they accept samples on the weekend or not. This table itself is filterable, and you can see you can use the filters by using this little button with a down arrow that will allow you to select different filters so that you can sort the table and find what you need to find. So now for the individual analyte laboratory maps, like I said, we broke them down into microbial, lead and copper, and water quality parameters. So this is the microbial testing lab map, and we're using purple pins to distinguish them from the other lab maps for the microbial testing labs. You can, again, use the magnifying loop to search and move the map to your location to help you find a lab near you. This map is going to be located on both the RTCR webpage and the Groundwater Rule webpage. Next, we have the lead and copper map. So this one is going to be using red pins to, again, help you distinguish between the maps. And again, you are able to use that magnifying loop here to search for your specific location and then zoom out to find any labs near you. And this map is going to be on our LCR webpage. And finally, we have the water quality parameters map. So this is going to be showing you the laboratories that do WQP testing. For this one, we're using black location pins. And this map is also going to be located on the LCR webpage. And once again, using the magnifying loop is going to be really helpful for finding a laboratory that's near your location rather than having to kind of guess where you are. So I hope that you all find these maps useful and go and try them out. And if you have any questions regarding the maps, feel free to contact us. And now, just in addition to all the other updates, just wanted to highlight our RTCR team. We've also had some updates. And so in case you haven't spoken to all of us, here is our team. So our compliance officers are Claire, Mia, Tammy, Peyton, Miranda, and myself. And then we have a wonderful administrative support with Sharika. And Sharika does a lot of the receiving of assessments. So if you ever have any questions about if your assessment made it to us, you can always reach out to her. And this summer we have a wonderful intern, and her name is Asha. And she is helping us with sample siting plan documents. So we're always here to help. If you have any questions regarding the RTCR, please feel free to email us at tcrdata@tceq.texas.gov for any questions regarding RTCR, but also now for if you find anything weird on the map that needs to be updated, feel free to email us there as well. If you don't want to email us, you can also reach out to us by phone. Although I would suggest emailing us. Our whole RTCR team has access to that email address. And so we try to respond as soon as possible to emails. So that was pretty much it for our update. So I can take any questions now if you have any. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Jackie. Looking in the chat, we already have a question from Nicholas Cook that says, does the map only show the public labs? Will it show emergency use labs?
No, it only shows the public laboratories, and those are laboratories that are not internal to a public water system. Therefore, any public water system can go to them. And so we're not really showing the ones that are internal. And that's just to help the public water systems, because, they want to know where they can go sample. Well, not sample, where they can go and take their samples. Sorry.
The next question is from Alfonso. Do we have to update our RTCR SSP with the new form?
No, you don't have to use the new template. It really is just there as a resource. You can continue to use your old template. However, the new template is a lot easier. It's been updated to be streamlined and to be shorter. And then also, you should be updating your template as changes occur. I mean, not your template, your SSP as changes occur. So if you need to update and your current form is not able to be updated, you can use our new template.
This is also a shameless plug to remind anyone who is a surface water or GUI system that you should be actually submitting that to us anytime you make a change. So if your population increases and you need to add more sites, or you've chosen to add more sites, put in sampling stations, change those locations, whatever's led to you making a modification, the monitoring plan 121 rules indicate that you should send that to us anytime you make a modification. So please bear that in mind, and if you do an annual review and get that updated, please share that with us. We are diligently reviewing those SSPs, especially if you have a positive result. We'll be checking to make sure that that SSP is being followed, everything's on that locational chart for your repeats, etc. So shameless plug, please, if you haven't recently, submit those to us if that is applicable to you. Also, if you're a groundwater system and you have a positive, we will be requesting your SSP as allowed by rule so that we can make those determinations as well. Sorry, Jackie, didn't mean to horn in on you there. Do you need anything else? Do you have anything else to say? Okay. Oh, sorry, you're on mute.
I apologize. I was just saying I don't have anything else to say. And if you all have any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Okay. I'd like to thank everybody very much for attending this morning. Obviously, we ran shorter than the agenda intended. I will not be keeping you guys on unless you have anything you want to discuss. Obviously, we are not in the situation where we can meet in person yet. However, we will be evaluating, as October comes around in our next WAWG, whether we can have a hybrid option of some sort. If you have an opinion on that, please feel free to let us know. I am open to any comments or concerns you may have about a format change moving forward. Okay, well then, thank you very much. As I mentioned, this meeting was being recorded. I'm going to go ahead and stop that recording now, but the recording itself will be available on our YouTube channel, usually in 1 to 2 days.